Hey guys, it's Jenny with Becoming Homesteaders. Today I am harvesting beets. I did an experiment and planted beets under my tomatoes this year and they did really good. Very pleased with that. So we're going to be harvesting beets, pressure canning beets. We're going to be pressure canning my carrots. My mom is helping me, so it's going to be a great day. Remember, if you like our videos, give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, Becoming Homesteaders. Okay, today's June 23rd, I believe, and we harvested just a few of my beets. We do have more to harvest. We will be canning these up. I can them in pint jars, and then we use them for pickled eggs or just to eat on salads. You can also eat the tops. You can saute the tops, you can eat them as salad greens, but we do have a few more that I left that weren't quite big enough to harvest yet that I will be freezing. I will freeze those and use those in some smoothies. We'll keep you updated on how many we end up with.
Boy, these are nice. That's a big one there.
Yeah, some of them are really big, some of them are small, but
It's all right, you can cut them in half.
yeah. Okay, we removed all of the tops. You want to leave a little bit on your beet because we need to boil these and remove the skin, and you don't want any of the water to seep into the beet itself, so you leave a little bit of the stem on there. Not bad. Look at him! Nice. Yeah, mending the soil definitely helped this year. Just harvested some beautiful carrots. We're getting ready to can these up. So we're going to give them a good wash in the sink here and then dry them and start our canning. We will be pressure canning these today, but I did save out a few. I probably should have saved more, but I'm hoping to have a nice fall harvest as well of carrots. So we'll see, but we're just going to eat these guys that are in the Ziploc. We're also going to give these beets a good wash. They will be boiled for about 15 to 25 minutes, however long it takes for those skins to slip off easily. And the purpose of leaving the tops on, like I said earlier, you don't want the water to seep into the beet itself. And that's just to prevent that color loss. If you cut the tops off, then that water will change the color and it won't be that vibrant pink, purple color in your jars. So you don't want that, but we're going to boil these. Once they're boiled, then we will take the tops off and skin them. Spending some time with my mom canning. She loves to can. She's always canned. She grew up in West Virginia and her family always canned. So she has passed that passion down to me. And I do love spending my time with her. She is 83 and every opportunity I get to have her help, I have her over. We are just cleaning the carrots. You don't necessarily have to do these skinning of the carrot if you're eating them fresh and you give them a good wash. But since we're canning them, we want to make sure they're very clean. So she's doing that part. I'm going to be slicing them into the little disc-shaped carrots. You can slice these long way if you would prefer having them long way, but I like the little discs. So we're slicing them up. We're going to fill these jars all the way up to the top and then cover them with boiling water. You do have the option of adding salt to your jars, but we never do. We just do the water and then can them like that in the pints. Just to make things go a little quicker, I usually always have a tea kettle on the stove with boiling water ready to put in my jars. I'm going to fill them up to 1/2 inch of headspace. I'm going to wipe the rims of my jars with the white distilled vinegar. This just helps to clean it real good. Make sure you have a good seal with your lids. And as I'm doing that, I'm checking the top of the jars for any nicks. You don't want to use a cracked or nicked jar because that will prevent your jars from sealing. So I do check them as I'm washing them and getting them ready, but then I always do another quick go over as I'm wiping the rims off. I'm going to center my lid on each jar and then put my ring on just to fingertip tight. You don't want to over tighten them because then that can cause the lid to buckle in the pressure canner. You also want to make sure that you check for any air bubbles that may be in the jar. You do this before you put the lid on with, I just use a butter knife, but you can use a debubbler for sure. Make sure you don't have any air bubbles in after you put that water in. And make sure you don't get your jars too full. I got a couple of my jars too full, so we had a few more carrots than I thought. So I'm trying to get them all to fit in my jars. So don't overfill your jars. That will also prevent your lids from sealing. We ended up with 9 pints of carrots. I have them in my pressure canner with 3 quarts of water in the bottom. All 9 fit on the bottom. So I will be pressure canning these at 11 pounds for 25 minutes for pints, and it would be 30 minutes for quarts. So we're going to let this steam for 10 minutes. Once it has finished steaming, then we will put our weight on here, bring the dial up to 11 pounds, and then set the timer for 25 minutes. You don't want your pounds to go beneath that recommended amount. So you want to make sure you're on that it stays at a minimum of those 11 pounds that's recommended. And I'm just using my little canning book that came with my pressure canner as a guideline. Okay, pressure canner is almost to 11 pounds, which is where we want it. It's important to make sure that you're following your recipes. Okay, just took the lid off the pressure canner, and I'm going to leave them sit in there for another 5 minutes, and then I'll remove them to the counter and we'll go ahead and process our beets. These beets cooked for about 25 minutes total. We checked them once and they were not ready for the skins to slip off, so we continued cooking them. I'm going to drain them. My mom is going to take the skins off and the tops and the bottoms. I'm going to slice them into quarters if they're big, or if they're small, I'm just going to leave them whole. Fill my pint jars up again to the top and then cover them with boiling water again. You can add that additional salt if you're wanting to do that. We never add anything to our vegetables when we can them. And it's just like the carrots. We're going to wipe the rims, center our lids, put our rings on, and place them in the canner with 3 quarts of water at the bottom. Okay, 9 beautiful jars of carrots, and like that sound, you can see that they're still bubbling inside, but the water has stayed to the top. They look really good, so there was no siphoning of the water, so that's a good thing. I did leave them in the canner for a very long time. I simply turned the burner off and just walked away and did something different. So they've probably been sitting in there for about an hour, and you can see how hot they still are. So, but I didn't lose any of that liquid in the jar, so that's a good thing. So if you can do that, I highly recommend just turning the burner off, walking away, and letting them cool in the canner itself, so you don't risk that loss of liquid. Well, we got so much done today. We did the carrots that I had harvested a couple days ago. We harvested beets this morning and then processed all of them. They're in the canner now. But I wanted to talk a little bit just about pressure canning. This is my little go-to book that came with my pressure canner. But sometimes we get in a hurry and may not do all of the steps that it's saying, and it's very important to follow your recipes that you have for pressure canning. Sometimes if you're not following how to properly pressurize your canner, then sometimes that can lead to all of that water in your jars siphoning out. So there is a whole process, and it's so disappointing when you go to all of this work of planting, harvesting, then prepping and canning for them to have just failed. So be sure you're reading your little books or your canning books and following your directions. We have definitely had these things happen. So my mom and I were just talking today. She remembers canning some vegetable soup and her pressure canner just completely exploded. This was several years ago. She doesn't even remember what happened, but she said she had vegetable soup all over her kitchen. Luckily, no one got hurt, but that is always a risk when you're not following a proper canning technique recipe. So definitely get your books out and follow those recipes, but you want to make sure that you have released all of the bubbles in your jars. You don't want any of those. You don't want to screw your lid on too tight, because then that can make your ring, not your lid, your rings, you don't want to screw those on too tight. That can cause the lid to actually buckle and not seal properly. You can get a jar that breaks, which we've had happen, and you don't even know it until you go to get your jars out and there's a broken jar. But the liquid being released from the jar or siphoning out when you take them out and you only have half a jar full of liquid, that's so depressing. Or you leave your jars on the shelves and you think that they have sealed properly, and then you get them out to use them and they're sour or mold, or yeah. So be sure you're following your recipes. That I wanted to talk just a little bit about the liquid loss. So we have had that happen before. And just recently, not too long ago, maybe a few years back, I was trying to can several things like we did today, back to back. And I was trying to hurry my pressure canner, and you can't hurry things. So I don't remember if I took the lid off too soon or if I took the little weight off too soon, but it depressurized inside the canner too quickly. So then when I brought my jars out, they were only half full of the liquid. The vegetable was fine, but the liquid was not. So, you know, if your vegetables above the water, they're going to discolor. So, and I don't know that I would even want to keep them if that would happen. I would probably want to open the jar and either put them in the refrigerator or use them up, but you're doing this so that they're shelf stable. So that's so sad when that happens. In your little book, it'll give you like a troubleshooting section. And it has, in this one, it has the bubbles, the jar breaking, the liquid loss. It has the flat or sour taste, your food spoilage, mold. Then this one says a black deposit sometimes found on the underside of a lid. That is also in here. The loss of color from beets, which I think we just talked about. So that is because you didn't leave that little bit of stem on the beet when you were initially boiling it to remove the skin. So a lot of times then when you go to can it, that's what causes the discoloration in the beet. They're not that bright, vibrant pink and purple that you're wanting, because they're so beautiful on the shelf then. But just little tips and tricks in here. sometimes we don't keep these books, but they're very handy, and I think this is my go-to when I pressure can things. I do use the Ball's Canning Cookbook for a lot of my recipes, but I always refer to this too, just to make sure that the times are accurate. So happy canning. Here are the beets. We had 8 pints, and you can see that this one did lose a little bit of liquid, but the rest of them, this one is down a little bit too. The rest of them look really good. So again, I just left them in the canner and walked away. So otherwise you do risk the chance of losing more liquid than you would like. So I just say leave it alone. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I had a great time in the kitchen today with my mom. I hope your gardens are flourishing. I hope you're harvesting a lot of fruits and vegetables and putting things up for the winter. Stay tuned for more videos of canning. The season is just starting. Remember to consider subscribing to my channel and give us a thumbs up. Thanks so much, guys. See you in the next video.